Hi everybody, my name is Gayle and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is all about my favorite authors and books. So I have so many and I'm sure you do as well, but I wanted to keep it at 10 is Colleen Coble, The Inn at Ocean's Edge. This book was filled with so much suspense, and this was like the most curvy book that you've ever read, just because there were so many twists and turns. You really didn't know where you were going to end up. The mystery was like started off like, oh, okay, I see how this is going. The missing girl, and oh, that is connected, but you did not realize like how much of a connection everything was. And it was just like so much of the suspense that you really didn't know where you were going to end up in the book. It was just full of twists and turns. The characters were amazing. I have always wanted to live near the ocean, and I really like how Colleen Coble always incorporates the ocean, the Coast Guard, surfing, and if you really like that kind of style, the hometown, the small. At number 9 is Lynn H. Blackburn, Beneath the Surface. This one is probably one of my favorites. I think one of my tropes is where the guy has to or the girl who's in trouble has to go at a safe house and the guy has to be there, and being locked up just makes them fall in love. At number 8 is Irene Hannon, Deadly Pursuit. This is the second one, I believe, in the series, and there's just something about this one. The dog, the roses, the black roses is always such a good suspense little thing in there that the killer will do by giving black roses the hint that death is on its way is probably one of my favorite ways that an author intertwines that something is coming by delivering the black rose. And I think I've only read it 3 times in 3 separate books, and it is just probably one of my favorite things that it adds just enough spice to the suspense and what's happening, and just gives it enough where you're not like, oh, it's a black rose. You're not really caught off guard with it, because it just delivers in its own way and adds more suspense where all the characters are like, oh, it's a black rose, and it just adds something to it. I love how these characters meet and they're both nudged together by her brother, and that is another great trope. Family members pushing the characters together is awesome. At number 7, we have Elizabeth Camden, Beyond All Dreams. This book to me was beautifully written. I haven't really read a book that was so beautifully done in a really long time, and so when I came up to this one, it was just gorgeous. And I loved her characters. They are so historic, and I am a big history nerd, and her characters are so intertwined with the history. And this one in particularly that I liked is she works at the Library of Congress, and it's her job for maps and scholars, and she is in charge of the Library of Congress. And I like how she meets her man, and his job intertwines with her job. And this book, I was really ticked off with the guy. I was so mad at him so many times, and when you read it, hopefully you will understand, because I was about to just get rid of him, girl, just move on, ignore him, he's not worth it anymore. And he makes up for it in the end, but I did have a hard time with that character just because he had a lot of red flags for me, and I did not enjoy him very much, but the historical aspect of her writing was just beautiful. At number 6 is Judy Hedlund with A Cowboy for Keeps. To me, the biggest trope for a Western story is the mail order bride, and just the pushing of the marriage of convenience is probably one of my favorite tropes in a Western, part of the thinking of Western. And this one, Judy Hedlund, I believe I'm saying her last name right. If I'm not, please correct me in the comments. And Judy definitely intertwines this a lot in her writing, and I appreciate it very much because I don't see it often in the type of books that I like to read. So it is very refreshing to find one author that does your specific trope and you love it. And I do see a lot of her using the baby sister and intertwining that relationship with the man, and intertwining this big sister and finding the little sister a new dad, or intertwining it in that way. This one it was a little different because the town had not been like fully settled yet, and so the main reason for bringing this woman in is there's a lot of reasons why this mail order bride happened, just to convenient the town, convenient the mayor's wife, and convenient Wyatt, the cowboy. So a lot of this was a marriage of convenience in the most way possible. At number 5 is Karen Whitmire, More Than Meets the Eye. This book was probably one of my favorites just because that it brought something different to the table. It was 3 orphaned kids are in a accident, and they just sort of adopt each other and call each other their own family in the Wild West. And the older one will do whatever it takes to survive and to bring anything he can, food, money, even a house for his siblings. And he does this all just to take care of them. And later on, we see just the impact of that older brother and what he had to do. And this was the first of the series. This one isn't necessarily entitled as a series, but there is a second and a third one. The first one just sets up everything as the first one does, but it really sets up the relationship of these siblings and what they had to go through of taking care of each other and doing any means necessary of finding and surviving. And that is probably one of my favorites because of her series, of just her in particular. Her writing is very good. I love her characters. She always adds a little spunk, a little spice between, it doesn't matter if it's the male character or the female character, there's always something there that's not like her other characters. It makes them stand out in a particular way, especially in More Than Meets the Eye. The young woman has a green eye and I believe a brown eye, or it's blue. I think it's blue and brown. And she's kind of as the town witch, and they all just say, you know, she's cursed by God, and kind of throw her out. And the male lead comes in and he's just like, you're the most beautiful girl in town. Like, why is everybody not looking at you? And so it kind of shows that judgment and gives the trope of to the rescue, and there's so much more. You don't think it's going to be as it is, and I always forget this one twist always happens, and so every time I read it I'm always surprised at that one twist. 4 is Mary Connolly, A Doctor in Petticoats. This one I have read countless times. It's part of a series. It's the first one, and I literally will just get it comes in a set of 3, and I don't even read the other 2. I just love this first one so much. It has a lot to do with the lead character is just so heroic. She is not worried about anybody else. She has a goal, and she's going to meet that goal. And even if people are going to tell her, no, you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be a midwife, she says, no, I'm going to be a doctor. And when she meets her love interest in the story, they are both broken. They both need each other, and it's another marriage of convenience, but in the best way possible. I love how where they both can't do their job without each other, and they both rely on each other, and I love how they stick together through thick and thin, even though it is a marriage of convenience. They both realize that, you know, we are married and we are going to have to stick together and live this through. We did not do this just for the heck of it. We are married now, and I love how seeing like they're just like 2 strangers in a stagecoach, and by the end they are completely in love. Number 3, we have Sarah Sundin, A Distant Melody. This one, I think I say that every time, this one, but this one is top 3 for a reason. This past year I just found Sarah Sundin, and I'm so glad I did. She writes for the hopeless romantic. She writes for the person that still would love to see another Jane Austen come around, the person that hangs on every romance movie or dreams about their wedding day, this is for the hopeless romantic. And A Distant Melody is very romantic. It's set in World War II era. That's typically where she writes the most. And I have not seen very many of World War II eras and a lot of 1940s, early 30s to the 60s. Typically, I read a lot of Westerns or modern, so this was a very cool balance. And at top 2 is Amanda Cabot with Out of Embers. This one is it is also set, this one is set in the Wild West again. This one is just the slow approach to this romance, and the built up is so beautifully written, and where it's just like, oh, are we almost there yet? Come on. But it's just like the slowness of it, and then also you can feel like the overwhelming shadow that is coming, and the characters are trying to get forward and get ahead, and then you can just feel it coming towards them. And this character, Evelyn, she really does come out of the embers and out of the ashes for her sister, and really works to get what she is set out to get and protect her, because that shadow is coming. And the story between her and Wyatt is so beautifully done. I love their bantics, and then she also brings in some other characters that could be potential suitors, and you can see the interaction where you're like, oh, maybe, and you're like, no, we don't like this guy, we want to go with Wyatt. And whenever she's talking to the other characters, you're kind of just like, no, we want to get back to Wyatt. Where she's like, oh, we might do this way, or we might do this character instead, but you're always like pushing towards Evelyn and Wyatt, and kind of gives you like, you're thinking you're in a love triangle, but you know you're not supposed to be, because these characters are my top favorite pick of favorite author and favorite book goes to Tracy Peterson, Cherished Mercy. Cherished Mercy comes from the Western series Heart of the Frontier. She's the youngest sister, so her book is last, and her sisters Grace and Hope, they live up to their name. Mercy also does as well, and that is just where the writer brings these challenges where they're going to have to show their name. They're going to have to extend grace. They're going to have to extend hope and have hope and hold on to it. They're going to have to hold on to extend mercy and be merciful. And it just wraps this beautiful story of being broken, but also having the courage to show grace to somebody else, to have hope when you are completely broken, and to extend mercy and to those that have hurt you. This is during I believe, one of the worst Indian massacres. I don't remember the place, but it starts off in the book where the tension is so high, and as the end of the story goes, you can just feel it. But these characters have been beautifully broken, and it just kind of gives you that, like, you can get through this kind of a book. And the third one is just so powerful. Mercy, she was young when these things happened, and so she was kind of shielded off. And once she learns of these things and what had happened to her sisters, and who was responsible, and then having to deal with these emotions and how does she go from here, is definitely why it's top 1, and I definitely recommend. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some books that might add to your TBR list, and tune in next Sunday for the next video.